The Girl of Ink and Stars, Chapter 5. Morning, little one. Dar's voice was soft. I'm sorry to wake you. How are you feeling? I couldn't speak it aloud, the twist of worry that was knotting in my stomach. Fine. I sat up as Pep jumped off the bed. I'm going door to door today with a few of the others, Dar said, asking if anyone saw anything. What about the curfew? Something has to be done. Don't worry, he said hurriedly, smoothing out my frown. We didn't get caught yesterday, did we? And if you have any problems, just call for Masha out of the window. Keep the door locked. I felt a stab of fear at the thought of being left. But Dar was right. Kata deserved justice, and as long as Pep and Miss La were here, I wouldn't be alone. Before he set out, I bathed his leg and wrapped it tightly. The old scar ran jaggedly from his knee to his ankle, like a red vein. When he jumped aboard the ship in Egypt, he didn't even know where he was heading. For all we know, we would sail over the edge of the horizon and never be seen again, he explained, pointing to the oldest maps. Horrible beasts populated the eastern coast, gigantic fish with claws and scales striped like tigers, one-eyed elephants with fangs and tusks sharp as glass, creatures that to the cartographers of old were less terrifying than the unknown. I'd always found this strange, preferring monsters to not knowing, but now I understood. The murderer was out there, nameless, faceless. That was more unsettling than if the killer had been revealed to have had 4 heads and teeth as long as knives. As Dar left, I hugged him a bit tighter than normal. You'll be safe, Issa, he said. Bolt the door. Dar's study was full of treasures from his travels, but it was not the telescope from Europa, nor the astronomy charts from China that fascinated me. It was what hung on the wall above his desk. Mars' map of Gioia, made before the banishment, before the governor arrived, even before Dar's family settled here from Africa, made when the island still floated. Dar said that if Arinta was real, and of course I knew she was real, she'd have lived on a Gioia that looked much like the one on Mars' map. Pep leapt onto my lap and settled down as I gazed up at it. The fabric, a pale brown, worn thin with age and use, was fraying at the edges. The map was basic at best and focused on odd details. Gramera was shown as the tiny settlement it must once have been. The Marisma, the swamp, was stitched in blue thread with the forest circling it. A blue star marked Arintan, the waterfall through which Arinta was said to have descended to meet Yote. There were 6 villages, dotted irregularly round the coast. Carmont was the one furthest north. The very centre of the map was blank, but when held up to the light, it seemed faintly lined, like the veins of a leaf. I wondered what the rest of Gioia looked like now. Overgrown, maybe? And what about the people the governor had banished when he arrived, and those from the other villages? The rest of Gioia might be completely empty for all we knew. I scratched Pep behind the ears, then pulled a sheet of paper towards me from the pile of used pieces Dar kept for me. Dar had been teaching me cartography since Gabo died. It was an obvious attempt to distract me, but I'd grown to love it. I dipped a quill into the blue inkwell. I didn't even glance at the red and began to draw what the forgotten territories looked like in my head. My legs had gone numb before Pep finally stirred, jumping off my lap and stretching. I flexed my fist, examining the half-finished map. The scaling of the forest was wrong, but I was happy with the detail of the river bends. Pep mewled. It was past his feeding time. Dusk was falling outside. I frowned. There was something to do with dusk that I had to remember. My stomach jolted. Lupe! I didn't think twice about breaking my promise to Dar. The market square felt just as eerie as it had the day before, like a village taken by spirits. Ravens chattered and fought on the roofs. Across the deserted stalls, I saw Lupe, sitting on the barrel, long legs trailing from beneath a pink taffeta gown. She looked as though she was on her way to a ball. Lupe waved. She didn't seem scared. I scuffed my way to the barrel. "I was worried you'd forgotten," said Lupe. "Good idea to arrange this, right? Did you see the fireworks?" I nodded. She sprang off the barrel and spun around. "So quiet. Isn't it strange?" "Everything's strange." "It's about to get stranger," said Lupe, stopping suddenly mid-spin. "Guess what?" "What?" "We're going on a trip," said Lupe, flinging her arms out. What do you mean?" "I mean," said Lupe, obviously deflated by my tone, "Papa and Mama and we're going on a trip to Africa." Africa? I tried to make the words sink in. The governor was leaving. "When?" "Soon," said Lupe happily. "But you can't tell anyone. Papa says it's a secret." "Only a trip? You're coming back?" She nodded, more curls slipping loose from her bun. "Papa would have said if not, wouldn't he?" "Would he?" "How are you going?" Lupe grinned, pleased to have shocked me. "On that." She pointed to the governor's creaking ship in the harbour below, but I couldn't drag my eyes from my friend's face. She felt like a stranger. I knew Lupe lived differently to the others, knew that this made her selfish sometimes, but she was also kind, and normally the silly things she said didn't make me want to walk away and wish I'd never known her. "What's wrong with you?" asked Lupe. "I thought you'd be excited for me." "What's wrong with you?" I hissed. "How can you act like this with Kata gone?" "Gone where?" "You don't know?" I said, my temper running through me like needles. "Why, there's no one around. Why, there's a curfew." Papa doesn't tell me things like, "Did Papa forgot to mention the detail? Too horrible for his darling daughter to hear." "Why are you being so mean?" Lupe asked, her lip wobbling. "Kata's dead," I shouted, sending ravens spiralling, "because you sent her to the orchard and someone killed her." The words, spoken out loud, were as shocking to me as they were to Lupe. Her face went almost as pale as her mother's. I didn't know." "No, Lupe, you choose not to know. You don't care about anything, anyone outside your life. You don't understand about your father, about Kata, about anything." "I do care. I want to know. Tell me. No one tells me anything." We'd never argued before, and Lupe's eyes were bright, but I didn't care. I felt threaded through with rage, as though if I could keep on talking, keep hurting Lupe, I would hurt less myself. "Because of you sending her to get you dragon fruit, Kata was in the orchard the same night as someone bad. Because of you, she is dead and she's not coming back. And because of your father, we won't find out who did it. He's too busy sorting out your fireworks to do anything. He won't send a search party through the forest, which is where everyone said the murderer went." The forest?" stuttered Lupe. "Why won't he? Why won't he go?" "Because he's a coward and rotten right through. Because everyone in your family is rotten. Ever since he came here, everything is rotten." Lupe was crying now, holding her stomach as if I had punched her. My nails stung crescents into my palms. I felt powerful, anger pushing out the fear. "My ma died because of you coming here. And Gabo, your papa stopped us crossing the forest to get medicine. And now Kata's dead too. And you're just running away. You're all running away to Africa and leaving us with this mess. Well, good." Isa, Lupe was holding her arm out to me, but I kicked dust at her skirts. "Go. Nobody wants you here." Lupe looked at me, face scrunched up, tears thick on her cheeks. and then she was tripping over her gangly legs, sprinting away towards her house. I kicked the barrel hard. My toe bent back and I gasped, collapsing in the dirt. The anger left as quickly as it had come, leaving a hollowness. What had I done? I hugged my knees, wishing I could take it back, all of it. Lupe hadn't known, hadn't realised. Isabella? It was Pablo, his hand outstretched. Are you all right? I squeezed my eyes shut until I was sure I was not going to cry, then took his hand. He pulled me up so strongly I lifted off the ground. Sorry, he said, then looked down the alley where Lupe had run. Wasn't that the governor's daughter? Lupe, I sniffed. We're friends from school. Friends? Pablo arched his eyebrows. Didn't seem like it. I rubbed my aching toe. I said some things I heard. Did she say that they were going somewhere? To Africa, on the governor's boat. I stopped abruptly, remembering Lupe had asked me not to tell, but I'd said worse things. I should apologise. Don't, said Pablo. Let her calm down. You should get home. I let him propel me across the square, and as we turned up our street, I noticed a livid bruise on his forearm. What happened? He looked down and shrugged. One of the horses kicked me. They're in a strange mood these past couple of days. The goats too. When I left, they were all bunched up against the gate. Why? He shrugged again. Don't tell my ma. She'll be on about omens and the like. It was the longest conversation that we'd had in years. But as we fell into step on the slope, I realised how easy it was to be silent with him too, like the years and Gabo's death had momentarily spun in on themselves, and we were walking back, the three of us, after a day by the sea. I wanted to say this, but Pablo's face was set. About halfway up, he said, we should go quicker. It's almost dark. The sun was falling. Ravens crouched on every roof. Their numbers seemed to have increased since the murder, as if they were multiplying, filling the absence of people on Gramera's streets. I kept my head down. The dust glowed orange and then faded to a deep navy by the time we reached my green door. Pablo knocked and it opened a crack. Dar's worried face peeked through and then he threw the door wide. Where were you? Sorry, Dar, No note? Do you realise how worried I've been? He's leaving, Pablo broke in. The governor. He's going to take that ship and leave us in this mess. Might be better if he went, Dar said. Pablo shook his head. He can't get off so easily. We have to teach him a lesson. Not now, Pablo. Dar glanced pointedly at me. You're coming with me? Pablo persisted. No. I'll be all right on my own, I began. Enough, Isabella. I glared back, and Pablo disappeared without another word, leaving a stony silence in his wake.